SAS Postulate. After watching this video, I will be able to use the SAS Postulate to test for triangle congruence. In the previous lesson, we talked about side postulate, which means that all three sides of a triangle have to be congruent to all three sides of a second triangle in order to say that the triangles are congruent. The SAS postulate is the same idea, however, the information needed is different. So in order for two triangles to be congruent, we need two sides and the included angle of one triangle congruent to that second triangle. So it could be any two sides of your triangle. So for example, here we have one AB congruent to DE. And then we have a second side, BC congruent to FE. In this case, we do not need to know any information on the third side, but if we are told that the angle that is included between these two sides is congruent, then our two shapes would be congruent. So the included angle would have to be that angle formed by the red and blue lines. The angle cannot be off to the side, such as the angles I am marking in yellow. So those yellow angles cannot be the angles given. It must be the two sides and that angle that is formed by those sides. That is called the included angle. And it's very important that we know which angles we are talking about. So because it's SAS, notice that the A is in between the two S's. The angle is in between the two sides. So here we want to determine if the two triangles are congruent, and how do I know? Well, first we have to draw a deduction that because this is two triangles formed by one shape together, that side right here that cuts the two is being shared. And because it's being shared, the reflexive property says that these two shapes have to be congruent. So that side is congruent to itself. So I have one side, I have a second side congruent, and then I kind of need to use some of my skills from geometry. This is a 90-degree angle. And because these two angles form a line, these two angles must add up to 90, to 180 rather. So 90 plus 90 gives me 180. So that other angle, even though they did not tell me what it is, it's 90 degrees. And now I'm going to determine what information I have. I have a side, I have an angle, and I have a side. And I'm verifying that that angle in green is actually in between the two lines. It's in between the blue and the red, so it's the included angle. So yes, these two triangles are congruent because of side, angle, side. In this example, we want to determine if the two triangles are congruent. So yes, they look exactly the same and they look like they should be congruent. However, just because it looks that way, we cannot assume that it is congruent. We must go off of the facts and the information given to us. So we are told that one side is congruent. So we do have a side. And then we do have an angle congruent. However, there is no more information. So because there's no more information given to me, no, these two triangles cannot be congruent. More information is needed. For this example, we want to state what additional information is required in order to know that the triangles are congruent. And we are doing side, angle, side. So before I even start breaking down my information, I do know that this side that's being shared is reflexive, so that means it's congruent to itself. So it's true for the top triangle as well as the bottom. So I have one side. Then I am given an angle congruent. Because we're doing side angle side, that third information needs to be right off of the included angle. So that third side that's necessary in order to make this true would be the blue lines. So I would need a statement saying AB is congruent to BW in order to say that these two triangles are congruent because of side angle side. So determine if the two triangles are congruent and state how do you know. Before selecting your choices, please remember to also take into account information you have learned previously in geometry. So for example, vertical angles might exist in this image, and if they exist, then that might tell you another piece of information in order to say these two triangles are congruent.